The last time money came into your hands, what was the first thing you felt? It wasn't joy, it wasn't relief. It was something more like a calculation. How much is missing? How much is leaving? How long will this last? And before you could even hold it, you were already thinking about how it was slipping away. That feeling has a name, and it has an origin. Jesus knew it. He knew exactly why there are people who work harder than others, and the money simply doesn't stay. And did he know what changes that? It's not about a special prayer, nor a ritual that requires a priest, but a single leaf. A leaf that he carried with him, and that the church decided you would never get to know. In this video, you will understand why your wallet is empty on the inside, even if it has money. You will discover what Jesus taught that morning in Capernaum that didn't make it into any official text, and how to place tonight what changes that relationship forever. But there is something I need to tell you before you continue. What matters here is not just in the leaf, it is in what Jesus explained about why it works. Because if you reach the end and put a bay leaf in your wallet without having understood what precedes it, what you will have is a kitchen leaf, nothing more. The difference between an ordinary leaf and what Jesus described is not in the plant, it is in the memory that leaf awakens. And that memory is only activated when you know its history. That is why you need to listen to everything. That morning in Capernaum, one of the disciples came running with coins in his hand, and Jesus, before he said a single word, already knew what he was missing. He didn't see the money, he saw the pouch. And in that pouch, he saw something that wasn't there. He approached, reached out his hand. Between his fingers was a small, green, freshly cut leaf. He held it for a moment, not like someone holding something in their hand, but like someone recognizing something. Then he looked at the disciple. "What you bring in your hand," he said, "is going to enter that pouch, and in a month it will be gone. Do you know why?" The disciple looked at the coins. "Because I spend it?" Jesus shook his head. "No, because your pouch is empty on the inside." The disciple didn't understand. The pouch had coins, it was full. How could it be empty on the inside? "A pouch without a leaf," Jesus said, "is just a container. It has an entrance and it has an exit. Everything that enters one day leaves, but a pouch that carries a leaf inside, that pouch has memory. It remembers what it has received, and what is remembered does not disappear." The disciple asked, "What leaf?" Jesus didn't answer immediately. He turned to the other disciples. And that morning, while the sun had not yet reached its highest point, while the market continued roaring behind them, he taught something that never entered the official text. Before talking about that leaf, I need to tell you something. Why didn't this knowledge reach you? Why in 2,000 years of preaching, of masses of prayers, did no one ever tell you this? There is a leaf you can carry, a leaf that Jesus himself described, a leaf that the disciples carried with them every day, not because it was forgotten, but because it was decided that you would never get to know it. But why was that decided? Jesus himself explained it that morning. One of the disciples asked, "Master, why hadn't you taught us this before? Why don't you teach it to everyone?" Jesus looked toward the market, the merchants, the passing priests, the people buying and selling. And he said something the disciples remembered for years. Because if everyone knew it, no one would need to go to the priest's door to ask for a blessing. They would already have the blessing in their pocket. The disciple waited. Jesus continued, "The system that administers the sacred needs people to depend on it. A priest blesses the water. A priest blesses the object. A priest blesses the house, the business, the family. Without the priest, according to them, there is no blessing. Without the institution, the connection does not exist. But I teach exactly the opposite. The blessing does not pass through hands. The blessing passes through intention, and intention is anchored in what you carry on you. A leaf that anyone can pick from the garden. That leaf makes the institution unnecessary, and that, to the institution, is unacceptable. Carrying a leaf in your wallet is not superstition, it is an anchor of intention. And the difference between someone who carries that leaf and someone who doesn't is not in luck. It is in what each one remembers when money comes into their hands. There are people who have spent years looking for the blessing outside, and there are people who at some point felt they had to find it on their own. If you made it this far, you already know which of the two groups you are in. Put your hand over your heart right now. Feel that heartbeat. It doesn't ask for permission to beat. It doesn't need intermediaries. The connection you are looking for is exactly that ancient, exactly that much yours. Now let's go back to that morning in Capernaum. Jesus had the leaf in his hand, and before saying which one it was, he said something else. Something the disciples remembered for years because it explained everything they had seen without being able to name it. There are people, he said, who work harder than others. They wake up earlier, they go to bed later, their hands never rest, and yet the money doesn't stay. It comes in, it goes out. It comes in, it goes out like water through their fingers. The disciples nodded. They knew people like that. Perhaps they were like that themselves. And there are others, Jesus continued, who do not work harder than the first. But what comes into their hands stays, grows, multiplies. What is the difference? There was silence. The difference, Jesus said, is not in the work. It is in what they carry when they work. There are those who work from fear. Fear that it won't be enough. Fear that it won't suffice. Fear that it will run out. And that fear opens a door. Through that door the money enters, and through that same door it leaves. He stopped. He looked at the leaf between his fingers. And there are those who work from another place, not from fear, but from the memory that it has already arrived before, from the certainty that it can arrive again. That memory, that soil, closes the exit door. What it receives, it keeps. A disciple asked, "And how is that memory built?" Jesus smiled and showed the leaf. "With this." Now I'm going to talk to you about that leaf, but first I need you to understand something, because if you don't understand it, the leaf will just be a leaf. An object without a history has no power. An object with a history carries within it everything it has lived. When you know the history of something you carry, your body treats it differently. The attention changes, the intention changes, and that intention is the blessing itself. That is why, before telling you which leaf, I am going to tell you why this leaf. That leaf was the bay leaf. The bay leaf in Palestine during Jesus' time was not a kitchen spice. It was something completely different. It was the plant of those who had received. The bay leaf did not appear in moments of petition. It appeared in moments of reception. When someone finished a fast, bay leaf. When an important deal was closed, bay leaf. When a harvest was blessed before gathering it, bay leaf. Not after, but before, because the bay leaf did not celebrate what had already arrived. The bay leaf prepared the inner field for what was about to arrive. Jesus knew this, and that morning in Capernaum, he taught it to his disciples with a single instruction. Put a bay leaf in the place where you keep what you receive, and every time you see it, remember that you have already received before, and that you can receive again. The disciples remained silent. One finally asked, "Why the bay leaf?" Jesus could have pointed to other trees that were there that morning. Olive, fig, palm. They were all there. But he chose the bay leaf and explained why. The bay leaf bends with the wind, he said, but it does not break. You can bend its branch and it comes back. And that quality has also passed to its leaves. The bay leaf, even when separated from the tree, seems to remain alive. It retains moisture. It keeps its color. Over time, it dries. But even if it dries, what it carried inside remains. He stopped. The noise of the market came from behind, but among them there was silence. You are like that too, he said. When you are squeezed, you bend, but you do not break. And the bay leaf reminds you of that every day just by being there. That is all. There is no further ritual. There are no special words. There is no time of day. Just the leaf and the memory it awakens. Stop for a moment now. There is a voice inside you that perhaps just said, "That's simple?" Or maybe a bay leaf. Everyone has that in the kitchen. That voice is the voice you were taught, the one that says the sacred has to be complicated, that it has to pass through authorized hands, that it has to come wrapped in ceremonies to have value. But Jesus knew it well. The most powerful teachings are the simplest, and no council can ban a leaf. A bay leaf in a wallet cannot be patented, it cannot be sold, it cannot be administered by any institution. Anyone tonight can go to their kitchen and start. And exactly that, is the reason why they never told you. Put your hands on your knees right now. Feel them. Feel the weight of your hands on your legs. Those hands that have worked, that have held, that have given and received. Those hands already know how to receive. The bay leaf does not teach them something new. It reminds them of what they already know. Remembering that is the only thing a leaf does. But Jesus said something else that morning, and it was what the disciples did not expect. He said that the bay leaf in the wallet does not bless the money, it blesses the relationship with the money. There is a huge difference between those two things. Blessing the money is asking something external to increase what you have. Blessing the relationship with money is changing how you receive, how you hold, how you let go. It is changing the soil from which you live abundance. Jesus explained it with an image that the disciples understood immediately because they saw it every day. He spoke of the field. A field, he said, can receive a lot of rain, but if the soil is hardened, the water runs over it and leaves. Another field receives the same rain. The soil is prepared, the water enters, it stays, it makes things grow. The wallet is that field, he continued. The money is the rain. The leaf does not call the rain. The rain comes or doesn't come according to what the world brings. But the leaf prepares the soil so that what arrives stays. A disciple asked, "And how does the leaf know what soil to prepare?" Jesus looked at the leaf he still had in his hand. He turned it slowly. The morning light passed through it. "Because the leaf has already lived what you want to live," and he said. The leaf grew. It received light. It received water. It didn't ask for more than it needed. Nor did it reject what arrived. It simply received and grew. That is what it teaches you when you carry it, not with words, but with its presence. Close your eyes for a moment, just a second. Imagine you have a bay leaf in your hand, small, dry, with those veins running through it from top to bottom, like miniature rivers. That leaf was on a tree. It received years of sun. It received years of water. It didn't reject any. It didn't ask for more. It just received. That is what you will carry in your wallet. Now, I need to tell you something about what the church did with this knowledge, because understanding what was lost helps you understand what you are recovering. In the early centuries of Christianity, before the official doctrine was established, there was a widespread practice among the first followers of Jesus, carrying something from nature on them, a plant, a root, a leaf, as an anchor of what Jesus taught about the divine source present in the natural world. In the 4th century, the Council of Nicaea classified these practices one by one. Those that could be controlled by the institution remained. Those that could not disappeared, not because they were false, but because they made the institution unnecessary. A person who carries a bay leaf in their wallet and feels that it transforms their relationship with abundance, that person does not need intermediaries, and that independence was unacceptable for a system built on dependence. The Nag Hammadi manuscripts, found in 1945 in the Egyptian desert, contain texts that the church did not include in the official canon. In them, there are references to Jesus' teaching about plants, about what is carried on one's person, about the relationship between the material world and inner intention. When you read those texts, you recognize something, not because you are a scholar, but because you already knew it, without being able to name it. That feeling of recognition, that I already knew this, but had no name for it, is no coincidence. But now let's go back to Capernaum, because Jesus didn't finish that morning with the bay leaf. He said something else. He said that the bay leaf in the wallet works in 2 stages. The first he already described, the memory of reception, the prepared soil, but the second stage is different, and it is the one that changes the relationship with money on a deeper level. The second stage is the moment of recognition when the money arrives. Jesus explained it like this. When money comes into your hands, there is an instant before the mind begins to calculate, to plan, to worry. If you catch that instant, you can speak to what has just arrived. The disciples looked at him, puzzled. Speak to the money? Not to the coins, Jesus said, but to what the coins represent, to the work, to the exchange, to the trust that passed through the hands of others before yours. When you see that chain, when you recognize it, what has just arrived knows it has reached a place that recognizes it, and what feels recognized returns. A disciple leaned forward. And how is that recognition done? With words? Jesus shook his head. Not with words, with posture. When the money reaches your hand, just breathe once before calculating. See what has just arrived. Just that single breath. That is the recognition. Touch something you have nearby right now. The fabric of your clothes, the surface where you are sitting. Feel that texture. Your hand recognizes it before your mind processes it. Hot or cold, soft or rough. The body knows those things without asking. That pre-mind recognition was exactly what Jesus was describing. The bay leaf activates that register the moment the money arrives. Before the calculation, before the worry, just the recognition. The body already knows how to receive. The leaf reminds it that it can. And now let me tell you something about the bay leaf that Jesus didn't say explicitly because his disciples already knew it, but that you need to know. The bay laurel does not lose its leaves in winter. In first century Palestine, that was something everyone understood without explanation. Trees that go through winter without losing what is theirs are the image of abundance that does not depend on the season, that exists even if conditions are not perfect. That is there in winter just as in summer. When you carry a leaf from that tree, you carry that memory. The memory that abundance has no season. The memory that what arrived before can arrive again. Every time you open your wallet and see that leaf, something inside you receives that message. I do not depend on the season. It can arrive, it can stay, and a prepared soil always receives more than one that is not. Now I am going to give you the 3 steps. Tonight, not tomorrow. First step, go to the kitchen, look for bay leaves. If you have dry ones, perfect. If you have fresh ones, that works too. Choose one, just one, that is whole, unbroken, because what you carry on you speaks to your inner system, and a whole object says something different than a broken one. Second step, before putting it in your wallet, hold it for a moment between the palms of your hands. Both hands. You can close your eyes. And remember, do not imagine, remember a moment, any moment when something arrived. Money, help, a door that opened when it seemed closed. It can be something small, the size doesn't matter, just that it was a moment when the flow arrived. Maybe a bill that could be paid when it seemed impossible. Maybe someone who appeared in a difficult moment. Maybe something unexpected. While you remember that moment, feel the leaf between your palms, the memory and the leaf at the same time. That is all. That is the activation ritual. No words are needed, no ceremony is needed. Just this. Third step, put the leaf in your wallet, behind the bills, or in the deepest compartment. And every time you open your wallet, when money comes in or when it goes out, pause for a second, just a second. Let your eye see the leaf and your mind remember, this is a prepared soil. Before the calculation, before the worry, just that second. That is all. No special schedule, no special words. Nothing that isn't already in your kitchen. The first day you might not feel anything different, the second day neither. But by the end of the first week, some people notice something. When money arrives, the first reaction is no longer the fear that it won't be enough. Something softens. The arrival begins to feel more natural than it was before. Not more abundant yet, but more natural. At the end of the first month, something else. The relationship with what you have changes, not because you have more, but because you see it differently. What previously went unnoticed begins to be seen, and what is seen multiplies in ways that accounting does not always capture. This is not a promise of wealth, it is something more real than that. It is the change of the soil from which you live abundance. And now listen to what is going to happen this afternoon or tomorrow. A voice is going to say, that was nonsense. A bay leaf in a wallet doesn't change anything. Or softer, maybe I'll do it tomorrow when I have time. That voice is not yours. That voice is exactly the one that for years made you keep looking for the blessing outside, in the priest, in the institution, in something that had an official name and a seal of authority. That voice protects the system that needs you to depend on it, and it speaks at the exact moment you are about to not need it. When that voice arrives, and it will arrive, remember this. What does not need resistance is what does not work. Only what threatens something is resisted. That resistance is the sign that you are on the right path. 3 steps. 1 leaf. Tonight. And there is something I cannot finish without telling you. That morning in Capernaum, when Jesus finished talking about the leaf, One of the disciples asked something no one expected. And the candle, when we light the candle, does that also have a teaching behind it? Jesus looked at him for a moment, then nodded slowly. It has a teaching, he said, but that teaching does not begin with the light of the candle. It begins with what happens before the candle is lit. And the church never corrected you on that, because if you knew it, everything you do with a candle would change. The disciple waited, the others too, but Jesus did not continue. He stood up, looked at the market that continued roaring behind them. First the leaf, he said, then the candle. Tonight the leaf. If this story has transformed your way of seeing the simplest elements of your surroundings, we invite you to subscribe and like our channel. We are unearthing the ancestral wisdom they tried to hide under centuries of silence. It is time to prepare your own soil and sow a different future. The next treasure of knowledge will open before you very soon.